All right, good morning, guys. And today we'll be talking on lists and hashes. Why don't I always move my leg when I talk? Yeah, so we'll be talking about lists and hashes, and that's what we have here: lists and hashes. So let's hit the road. So I have a file called data structures.js, which you can see here. And over time, or what we've been doing the last couple of weeks, we've been working with data types. We've been working with data types where we worked on strings, worked on numbers, worked on booleans and other things. We equally worked on loops and loops. What again? I can't. Man, I'm getting too old. Okay, loops. We worked on loops. We worked on conditionals, right? But one of one very important thing we haven't touched on, right, is what we call data structures, and pretty much it's just how do we structure our data in a way that we can access whatever we need to access at any point in time, right? And that is where lists or hashes, if you're using Python, is called a dictionary. And pretty much a list is what it is. You have items in a particular order, like you're going to the market, you want to buy let's say you want to buy um, okay, you're going to the supermarket, right, and you want to get probably your groceries or your cereals, right? So you could say, okay, item one, I want to get cornflakes, then I want to get golden morn, then I want to get what other thing do we have as cereals? Cerelac. I love Cerelac too. So let's say we want to get these three things, right? So the first item in your list is going to be your cornflakes. Then the second item is going to be your golden one. And then the third item is going to be your Cerelac, right? And it's a way of ordering or putting things in an order, right? Which you call a list. So that once you get into the supermarket, you can easily access them and all that. So it's pretty much the same thing with programming. But the key thing you have to understand with lists is with lists is that it's an ordered sequence of things counting from zero. So remember, I told you computers always count from zero; they don't count from one up until the last whatever the last item in the list is. So let me quickly pull this up. So let's say you had a list of let's say you want to get Milo. My handwriting is terrible. You want to get Milo, then you want to get cornflakes, right? And then you want to get tea. So now you have three items in your market list. So basically, this is what it would look like. My days, what did I just do? This is what it would look like. You are going to have three items in this list, right? Milo being the first, conflicts being the second, and T being the third. Remember, I told you computers count from zero, right? And if you're the curious type, you'll be like, is this not what he did with strings? Right? And I remember I told you a string is an ordered sequence of characters, right? But I told you there was a time I remember in one of the videos I said it's like a list, but it's not a list. But the similarity is that it's an ordered sequence of characters. So having said that, what we could do or what so this is what a list is. So let's say we declared this okay, I'll show you the declaration or how to implement a list, but this is more or less like to have an idea of how it works. So I was about to say having said that, so and to create a list is very simple. We could just do let my list equals, and here we use square brackets, right? Take note, square brackets. And a list can hold any data type, right? So it could hold it could hold other data types. Let me put it that way. So in this case, let's say the first item in my list is Milo. Then what was the next item? Sorry, Milo, cornflakes, and tea. Okay, and then we have cornflakes, and then we have tea, right? So now if I should log my list, I should get an error because I didn't type this properly. Okay. Now if I should console.log my list, you can see we have this square bracket. Take note, this is a way of JavaScript telling you, oh, I know you just declared a list or you're working with a list. So the square brackets, right, is It's just the way to identify that it's a list you're working with. And a list is equally an object, right? In JavaScript, pretty much. So what that means is, being an object, it has access to certain methods, right? And if we should do my list dot, you can see all these possible objects, all these possible methods you can perform on the list, right? And it equally has its attributes. Remember, I told you an attribute is a method is like a call to action, right? You want it to perform something. An attribute is more like a question you're asking it. So in this case, if I want to know the length of this list, I will just do my list dot length. And take note, I'm not putting the extra parenthesis here because, like I told you, it's not a method call, right? If I should run this, I should get 3. And it is true because the length of it, we have 3 items here, right? So probably what I would do to make this easy is, and I think probably going forward, I would share. Okay, no need. I was thinking I would share the file with you, but I don't think there's any need for that. So now the first thing we're going to do, right, is we're going to learn how to know the length of a list, right? So in knowing the length of a list, how do we do that? We just simply come here and say, okay, what we declare the list above called my list. So we just come here and do my list dot length. Now VS Code is a very smart IDE, and what it does is to make your life easy. So if you notice, all these other things that have this purple, I don't know if they're cubes or whatever, right? It's an indication that this is a method. These are methods, right? But the one that has this blue icon that looks like a brick, or I don't know, my eyes are working properly. Does it look like a brick or like a rectangle or whatever? Sure, it looks like whatever it looks like though. It's blue and it's a way of telling you this is an attribute, right? Or a property, as you can see here. But in this other one, or once you hover on them, you can see here method, right? I hope this is clear enough. Yeah. But if I come down to this one that looks different, you can see it's a property. So a property or an attribute are pretty much the same thing. So you can see it tells, it has a message here, gets or sets the length of an array. This is a number one higher than the highest index in the world. You don't just know it returns the length of the array for you. So we're going to work with length. And now if I should log this out, you can see we have 3. So the next thing I'll be showing you guys is how do we accessing items in a list. And to do this, let's say I wanted to get the first item in the list, right? I could simply come and do, okay, you know what, my list. So each time you're typing, let me do this. If I type log and I start typing my list, if you notice, there's this highlighting it does, right? You can see this gray highlight of empty, right? And that the problem with that is I cannot have access to some of VS's codes and suggestions. So what I do is I usually just come out and click, and you see that gray thingy is gone. So let me do that again. Log, and if I start typing, you see that gray thingy. So ideally, if I had done my and L, it should have suggested my list. So you just simply come out, go back in, and now once I type I, you can see it's suggesting my list. So if I want to do my list and I want to get the first item, remember we start counting from 0. So I just do square bracket 0, and now it's going to return the first item, which is million, right? So let me use string interpolation, so this becomes more intuitive. So I will say, okay, this is the length of the list, right? So here I'm doing my list.length. So obviously you know this would return 3, right? And then here I'm doing this is the first item in my list. Remember, with string interpolation you use the $sign and curly braces. So the idea is whatever you put here, you can put a variable here, you can put an expression here, you can pretty much do anything here that can evaluate to something, that can return a value, right, or has a value. So in this case, my list square bracket 0. Now whenever I use the square bracket, whenever you do this, it's called indexing, which I've explained to you, meaning you're trying to access an item at a particular position, right? That is what indexing is. So If I run this code now, you should see this is the length of my list 3. This is the first item in my list, Milo. And let's say I wanted to do I wanted to get, so it depends on the length of your list though. So let's say I wanted to get the second item in the list, right? Let me comment this out. So remember, when you comment stuff out, it doesn't get executed. Oh, right. So this is the first. So in this case, this is the second. This is the second item in my list. And if I should run this code as we expect, the first item in your list, the length of your list is 3. First item is Milo, and then second item, yeah. So what if you want to get the last item in your list? Does JavaScript support this? Let me see. Okay, it doesn't. So if it was Python, when you do -1, it returns the last from behind. So I'm sorry, I don't think it does. So so yeah, so we've done accessing items in the list, and then what else can we look at? Let's look at some list methods, right? So the first one we're going to look at is let me see one of the methods we can use. So we can use, so let's say you wanted to remove an item from your list, right? You wanted to remove the last item in your list. So you can see here, pop does that for you. It removes the last element from an array and returns it. Now this is important because let's say I wanted to know what the last item in my list was, right? Or I just wanted to pop it. So let's start with the first one. So let's do pop. So this, I think I will just share this JavaScript file with you guys. So this removes the last item in the list and returns it. So I would explain what this returns it means shortly, but let's do this now. So if I should come here and do my list dot pop, right? I remember it's a method, so I have to put in this special parenthesis, right? So now once I run this, behind the scenes is going to take out t, right? Because t is the last item in the list. So if I should log my list now, let me do this so that you can see the difference. So if I should run this code, you should see something like this. Here you can see before I popped the list. I'm a very lazy guy, so I don't like typing stuff. So let me copy this and paste it here. Before I popped the list and after I popped the list, right? So you can see before I popped the list here, before I popped the list, and after I popped the list. So let me run that again. So let me clear my output. So I right click here and clear, so everything is looking fresh and empty. And then I run it again, and now you can see. So just like what we expected, console.log, this is the first, the blah blah blah. But what I'm interested in is before I popped the list, I had Milo, conflicts, and T. Now that I've popped the list, I have Milo and conflicts because of what I did here, right? And this is the first wing of this what this list does, this method. Sorry, it's about to sneeze. Sorry, guys. So this removes the last item in the list, right? This is the first thing it does, and then after it removes it, it returns it, right? So yeah, I remember I told you guys about functions, but I haven't taught you guys that yet, which we should be doing that in the next couple of weeks, right? But so what this pretty much means is when you call that method, the method removes the last item and returns it to you. So in case you want to use it for something, so we could jolly well have come here and said, okay, you know what? Let last item equals my list.pop. So now what would happen is if I come here, I really hate type in last item in the list is. Now what will happen is this. You can see what happens. You can see before I popped the list, I had Milo conflicts tea. After I popped the list, Milo conflicts. Then last item in the list is tea. So what? Let me walk you through what just happened. So the first thing is we are going to be console.log our list, which is what we're happening, which is what happens. English is terrible. Which is what we are seeing here. Then now in line 22, I performed a pop action on the list. So it's not going to console.log anything out unless maybe the method itself. Or just know because I didn't console.log line 22. All I did was I told it pop out of this list for me, which it did. Right behind the scenes, you are not seeing these things, but it's happening because that is what this method does. Removes the last element from an array and returns it. So now what this thing does is it will remove the last element in the array and return that value for you. So it will remove t and now say, okay, Oga, I've removed t. See me saying Oga as civil entrance or watching this. You have to be like, okay, boss, I have removed t, which is the last item, and here is t, right? And it hands t back to you, which you now say, okay, now that you've handed t back to me, store it in this variable called last item, such that you can now have access to last item. But the side effect of this is your list has been changed. So now if you should come down here and let's copy this, shift alt down, and you should check the current the length of your list. You should see it should be 2 now, right? So this is the length of the list 2. At the beginning it was 3, but at some point in our code we popped, and by popping we reduced the items in the list. So yeah, this is just what pop does for you. So the next one we would do, let me separate this. The next method, let's see. Let me see what methods we have. List dot push. So let's say we wanted to add. Let's say okay, we've written our list, but we realized, oh, we didn't add push. So push is the opposite of pop, right? Push, this adds to the list, right? So if I do my list dot push, I love shawarma a lot. Sure, right? And I log my list, right? Now the length of our list will return to 3 because even though we popped it, we've added something to it. So now we should see something like this. So this is the length of my list 2, which was the last thing we did here, right? But now in line 31, we came and added shawarma to it. So now we have Milo conflicts and shawarma as against what we had before, which was Milo conflicts and tea, right? And if I should do this, shift all down and run this code again, you should see the length of our list is now 3. It's 3 because at some point we added shawarma to it after we had removed t from it, right? So this pretty much push, it just adds to the list. Now I don't think push returns. Let's see what push does. Okay, adds new elements to the end of an array and returns the new length of the array. So exactly, so you can see it doesn't return the item it added to the array, unlike pop, right? So let's look at one more method before we see what method do we have that I think is beginner friendly. Yeah, so what if there's an index of method, right? So let's say I want to know the index position of something. So let's say I want to know the index position of shawarma. Now why am I using shawarma? Because at some point in our code we had popped out t, right? We removed t at this point. right? So, oh, let me just keep it simple. Let me, okay, yeah, so it's fine. So let me say, okay, or let me use something we've not changed. Let me use Milo. Or better still, let's add more things to this. Let's add soap. Let's add, what else can we get? The Deodorant. Deodorant. I hope I spelled that right. Deodorant. Right? So we have 5 items now in this list. Meaning if I run it, you should see something different. So we have five. The first item is Milo. Second item is cornflakes, which is correct. Before I pop the list, I have Milo cornflakes soap deodorant tea. After I pop the list, I have Milo cornflakes soap deodorant. Last item in the list is tea. Okay, I think is or was tea. Sorry, grammar was tea. This is the length of the list now. This is the length of the list now. So yeah, so this is the length of the list now, which is 4 because I had popped tea out. Then I added my list.push shawarma, right? So to make it much more better, much more to make it better, I just adding shawarma to the list. And yeah, so adding shawarma to the list. Now we have Milo complex soup, the other and shawarma, right? And then this is the length of the list. Now we have 5, so it's back to 5. So now, what if I need to know the index of shawarma, right? That is the index position of shawarma, right? So what this method does is it returns the index of the first occurrence of a value in an array, right? So pretty much what it's saying is, if I give you shawarma, it tells me where shawarma is in the list, the index position of shawarma. So if I should log this out and come here and print it, you should see Control Alt N. It's 4, and it's correct because if you count it, you have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So I could make this much more intuitive and say, okay, the index, let's write index, the index position of shawarma is a dollar sign for it to come to life. Exactly. If I run this code now, you should see the index position of shawarma is 4, and it's correct because you have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, which technically is 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 5 items, but remember the computer starts counting from 0. So that is what index of method does for us. Index of returns the position of the string of the string of what we pass into the method. So yeah, what we pass, when I say pass into the method, it means we put in this inside the parentheses. That's what we're passing into the method. Which is what we're saying, okay, hey, take shawarma, go and find where shawarma is in the list. So now what if we're looking for ice cream and we don't have ice cream in the list? It's going to return -1. So -1 just means false, right? It's the computer's way of saying it doesn't exist in the list. It's undefined, right? It doesn't exist. And if I should do T also, you would expect that because we had T here, we should see it. But if I run this code, it's -1 too. Yeah. Why? This is correct because at some point in our code we had popped out T from the list, right? Yeah. So that is so let's just leave it back to um take it back to what it was, which was shawarma. So just take note that whenever you are trying to get the index of something that is not in the list, JavaScript returns -1, right? Meaning it doesn't exist. So having said that, let me see. Sorry guys, I can't remember where we stopped. I had to attend to something. So in case this sounds a bit disconnected, so sorry about that. So I think let's see if we can look at one more index method, right? Let me see if we can look at one more index. Yeah, so we're going to look at one more index method, which I think we should know. Let me try my list dot. There are a lot of things, but there are a lot of things we can do. But I just want something that is easy to work with. So let's say concat copy within field find index. It's simple as index. Okay, now let's say whether to check whether our list includes something, right? So this simply um includes, right? So this returns true or false if an item is in an array. So I'm so sorry, I've been referring to arrays. An array and a list are the same thing. So it's actually an array, right? Which can also be called list, right? So list or array, I know if it's Python, Python is called refers to them as lists, but in JavaScript it's called an array. So it's the same thing I've been explaining. It's just the name. So um so if we want to check if, for example, it includes con, and the spelling has to be the same way you did it here. So if I don't con with space and flicks, I wouldn't get true, right? So if I come here and I log shift and x, if I should run this, you can see it's false, right? Why is it false? Because this is not how I spelled it. So the computer is very sensitive when it comes to things like this. So it has to be the way I spelled it, right? Which is this. And if I run this now, you can see it's true. Awesome. So I think this should be enough. And our tasks would come from this example. So I really encourage you play with this, use your own examples, and if you have issues, always feel free to hit me up or your friends on the Slack channel, right? And I will try my best to explain it. So the next thing we're going to be working on is hashes, right? And hashes are very simple, and it is pretty much a key value pair. So what do I mean by this? Um, sorry, where is my mouse? Okay, right. So if I should come here and clear everything I've done, so now a hash pretty much is a key value pair. So let's say, for example, you have a user, right? And now that user has a name, user has an age, user has a gender, right? So the way we use hashes is we have a key, which is this three things here: the name, age, gender, and then the value, right? Which comes after the colon. So in this case, the value would be Tony, age. You don't need to know my age. Age is 200, and gender is, I think I'm male, so I'll say male, right? So this is pretty much my user object, right? Or a hash. So they are called objects or hashes. So the main thing is you have a key value pair. So they are called objects, right? No, but yes, in my community, because I've equally mentioned objects as something else, so we'll just call them what they are. They are hashes, right? But if you see objects in this context also, you should understand that it's just key value pair, key value pair. So when I do something like you, I'm typing with this inside. If I do something like user dot name, right? I would get Tony. Or same way if I do user dot age, I would get what? 200, right? And then if I do, I can equally do user dot gender, and you, exactly, I will still get, I'm tired of typing this, writing this, I will get male, right? So the essence is it's a key value pair, right? Like I said. So let me clear this out. How do you clear this? Okay, an eraser is going to take forever. This is going to take forever. Oh my days. You can't go beyond this. Okay. Let me just make this easy. So like I said, um just let me cancel this. Forget this. Forget you're seeing this. Right? So the key thing is you have a key and you have a value. Right? And then to access the value, you call the key. Right? So let's say you declare this in a variable called user, which I did above. Right? So the user, there's a key, there's a value. So when I do user dot key, right? Technically I'm asking this user, do you have this key? And if you have this key, please return the value that belongs to that key. So if you remember growing up, right, we all had dictionaries which we used, right, and to find the meaning of words in English. And it's pretty much the same thing. A dictionary had a key and a value pair, right? So sorry, I'm trying to buy time while clearing up this. This is so difficult. Who knows how to use this thing? Because I feel so embarrassed. It's quite stressful. Oh, oh my days! What did I just do? Okay, so let's start a new one. No, I'm not trying to save you. I need something new. Okay. So let me just close this and start it again. Don't save, please. Don't save. Let me go with paint. So growing up, we had a dictionary, right? That's why we're looking for the word angry. So you can see your dictionary as this variable that has a lot that has items. So a key value pair is an item, right? So you can see a dictionary as this big book that had a lot of items, right? In which the key was the word you're looking for and the value was the definition of the word. So let's say I was looking for anger, right? I'll know that okay, I'll go to A in my dictionary. And here once I see anger, anger has the definition of what anger is, right? Let's say I was looking for what sleep means. Same thing, sleep is the key. Sleep has its definitions, right? And let's say I was looking for what vex means, right? Same thing. Once I asking in quote, right? Once I ask Oxford Dictionary, hey, please, what is vex, right? What does vex mean? What does sleep mean? What does anger mean? The information that gets returned to me, right, is the definition of those words I was looking for. So those words in this case are the keys, their values are their definitions, right? And then the Oxford Dictionary is that variable that houses or has all these um, words I'm looking for, right? So I think let's quickly get into the code side. So to create a dictionary, right, all we do is let my dictionary equal. So here we use curly braces, and those are the ones that, yeah, on the same one you have your square brackets, right? Is you usually have your curly braces. That's the symbols beside the P on your keyboard, right? So that is this. Let me see if I can pop up my virtual keyboard. Right, so this, after your P you have this. So these are your curly braces, and these were the square brackets. So if we held shift down and this, so I have to type here so it knows I'm typing here. So if I should delete this and press space, so now just hold shift down and curly braces. That's all. But if I wanted to use the square bracket, I don't need shift. So I'll come here and just click on square bracket. But obviously, this is, I'm showing you like the on-screen representation of what your keyboard looks like. So to use the curly braces, you just hold shift down and then press this button here, and it will give you the second symbol, which is the curly braces. But without the shift button, you have your square brackets. So just felt I should show you guys. So pretty much you have my dictionary, and let's say in this my dictionary I want to have a name. Oh, remember, it doesn't allow us to use name because name is a reserved or it's a special keyword. So I mean you can, but it's not, once VS Code highlights it with a cross, you know it's not something you should use. So let's just say we can call it user name, and now we're going to give it the value Tony, and then you separate it with a comma, right? So we can say age 200, gender male. Now take note, the keys, right? You don't need to put them in quotation marks, right? So if I come here and I log my dictionary, it's doing that same thing I told you. So once it's been highlighted like this, you just come here, come out and go in again. And now if I do my dictionary and run it, you would see um, username Tony, age 200, gender male. So let me just put some space between these students. Log. Okay, so this is just so that I can have some space. I mean, you can see it's too clogged up here. So I should run this again. You can see exactly. So let me just call this hashes section. I'm just calling my hash. Right? Hashes section. You can call them hashes or objects. But it's not in, let's just call them, yeah, hashes or objects or dictionaries. Yeah, right? Whichever one. But they are not objects the way I had explained objects to us earlier. This is just, it's going to confuse you. So let's just leave them as hashes or dictionaries, right? So um okay, so awesome. So we are good to go. So if I run this now, it should look better. So we have the first side we did up. Now we have hashes slash dictionary section, and now we have username. So you can feel free to comment out everything I have done above, probably when you copy this code or whichever way. But this is just so that it can make what I'm doing easy. So now you see we have our object, our hash return. So if you see me say object or hash or dictionary, just know I'm referring to the key value pair data structure, right? So now you can't do something like hash square bracket 0. The indexing is not allowed. It's undefined, right? So rather you pass in the key. So there are two ways to access keys in a hash. You can do my hash dot, and now once I do the dot, you can see it has provided us the properties, right? Which is what we have here, 1, 2, 3. So we have for now 3 properties: username, age, and gender, right? So but these other ones the yeah, so these are the properties we have in this hash, right? So I can just want to work with username, so I can just do hash my hash dot username, and now I will get 20 printed out, right? If I should do my hash dot age, I'll get 200 printed out. I'll get 200 printed out, right? So it speaks for itself. So like I told you, it's they are way more easier to use, and it returns the corresponding value. And we can actually reassign the value of a hash. So let's say I decide that okay, I don't want my username to be Tony. I can just come here and do my hash dot username equals Simbi. And if I come here and I print username now, you will see username changes to sorry, you would see username changes to Simbi. So you can reassign or modify. So in this case, let's want to add um 10 to my age, right? I can just do my hash dot age will be equals to what? You guessed it, right? My hash dot age plus 20, and now we should have 220. Exactly, because I'm saying I want my hash dot age to be equals to the current hash dot age plus 20. I can make it plus 200, and in this case we have 400. So my point is you can modify the values of the value of a key in a hash by doing what I just did here, right? Accessing it through and then making the changes. So I think this is pretty much all you need to know about hashes. And then because a hash is an object, right? We have if we wanted to know all the keys in a hash, we could do something like this. Object, right? Dot keys, my hash, and now it will return all the keys in my hash. So it's telling me that we have username, age, and gender as the keys. Remember, it doesn't return the values. Or if I need to know the values, I could equally do this. I think. I doubt. Okay, I can. So I can get the keys as well as the values of my hash. So this time it returns, if you notice, it returns, what did I do wrong? Okay, object.keys, not key. So if I should run this now, it returns an array, right? Of the items, a list of the items. And because what it returns is a list of the items, I can do something like, okay, I want you to print out the first item. I want you to print out the first item. And in this case, you just return username Tony. Because username is the first key, right? And then Tony is the first value as well when we did object of value. So let me walk this a step back. If I should print this out again, it returns an array. So because it's an array, I can perform array methods on them. But this might be a bit complex, so you don't need this for now. We'll just keep it simple and stick to what we did before. So hash, run it, and we have. So yeah, this is pretty much how hashes and um, hashes and arrays work, and I hope you get to play with it and have fun. And I think I will probably um, add some. Let me see. Oh, my Twitter. Let me see. Array methods. JavaScript. So actually, I love using W3 School, so you can have. Oh, it uses a front endish way to explain it. So let's use. Let me see if I can get a good article on this. So you can use resources like this if you are interested in going deeper, right? But I think this should suffice for now. Um, so thank you guys for watching, and I hope you learn as much as I hope you learn. Yeah, so have a good one and see you guys in the next video.